Let's go for it!
I like the dark stuff. Give me the dark stuff. I like the dark stuff. Give me the dark stuff.
Hey everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave, the host here at The Dark Stuff. Thanks for checking out my new video. Hello to all my new subscribers. Something's really happened with my last video. I did a rest in peace video to Kim Shattuck from the Muffs, one of my favorite bands of all time. And it's gotten, I mean, by my standards, it's like freaking viral, okay? Like it's right now currently at about 16,000 views in the last 2 weeks. And for me, that's ridiculous because most of my videos get like a couple hundred views. And this is like, 16,000. It beats my next highest video, which is my review of the current Kiss tour. It more than doubles it. So I got a lot of new subscribers. Hey everybody, hope you like the rest of the videos, not just that one about Kim Shattuck, although the Muffs are going to be featured in this video, by the way, because I am going to talk briefly about their new record. You saw a little clip of Mike Watt and the Missingmen. Mike Watt, I've done a ton of videos with him in there, one of my all-time favorite artists, but over the years, I've seen him probably, almost 24 times with Firehose and with his various different bands that he's been in over the years, his own lead bands. I never saw him in the Stooges, and I didn't see him in Porno for Pyros, but he did play with both of those. Anyways, my point, in a real roundabout way, was to say that I caught him again, and the last couple of shows that I've seen him in, he was good, but it wasn't like, I didn't get that same like charge that I used to get when I saw Firehose, or when I saw his early solo stuff, like when he was with that original band with like Dave Grohl and whatever. But I was going every time because Watt was always, to some degree, really, really excellent. And there were better shows and less good shows and whatever. And a lot of it depended on the set list and how sort of inspired Watt sort of seemed at the time. Well, Watt is hella inspired at this point.
Mike Watt takes us down.
Plays with the band The Missingmen, which is Tom Watson on guitar, and ordinarily has this guy Raul Morales on drums, but on this particular tour he's got this dude Nick Aguilar, and I don't really know who Nick Aguilar is, other than that when I saw him get on stage he looked like he's about 15 years old, and I was just sort of like, wow, like he's playing with guys in their late 50s and he's like 15. He's not 15, he's 22, but man, the skill level on this dude, it was unreal. Everyone in the room was just like, are you seeing this guy? Like, do you believe this kid? And he's not a kid, he's 22, he's an adult, and I don't mean to be dismissive, but 22 still feels young to me. Anyways, Watt was just pumped. He was invigorated with this thing. the set list was different than what he's been doing. He wasn't playing some of his latter-day solo albums. It was a lot of covers. He did like Rocky Erickson covers. He did a couple of Blue Oyster Cult ones. He did ETI, which is he always does Red and the Black, but I've never heard him do ETI before. He did he did do a ton of Minutemen songs, but in addition, let's see what he did. The pop group. He did something from, I can't remember who else he was doing, but it was like all stuff that he was really inspired by when he started off as a young musician, you know, when he was getting into the Minutemen and stuff. And if you get a chance to see Watt on this tour, he is absolutely inspired at the moment. You know, saying this as a longtime fan, and you know me, I'm honest about stuff. If an artist I like does something a little subpar, I'm going to tell you. You know, I'm not just a suck up to the bands I like. Anyone who watches this channel will know that. Okay, so beyond the Mike Watt show, I mean, I'm going to see Twin Peaks in less than a week, or a week from when I'm filming this video. So I'm sure I'll do a follow-up on that. I'm still working on the editing of my replacements Dead Man's Pop video, which is coming out much later than I had anticipated. Sorry about that. I did mention earlier that I'd be talking about the Muffs again. So let's go ahead. I have 3 albums I'd like to briefly talk about, not full-blown reviews, just that I've been listening to and give my thoughts on. So the first one is the new Muffs album, No Holiday. Okay, now as we all know, Kim Shattuck passed away earlier this month, so this will be the final album that the band worked on. Now at the time I first started listening to it, I didn't really understand how the record was made. I assumed it was like, you know, they had been recording it and then Kim got sick and that this was what they had to go with. Turns out that's not the case.
Just about the time you got a super noose around your neck. Maybe you can take a second, think up.
What happened was Kim Shattuck has her own demos dating back to the 90s, and in some cases they would just be acoustic demos, and in some cases they would be more produced with like electric guitar and a drum machine and bass, etc., and almost sounding like fully finished songs. This is what I understand. So when they decided to do this project, they were picking out demos and stuff from Kim's songs, but once Kim got the illness, the first thing that she was unable to do with ALS was to grip the guitar. She couldn't hold on to it any longer. So she wasn't able to play guitar on the record. So then she lost the ability to speak and communicate. So it was basically they had to take the vocals off of her demos and then re-record the songs around it. So in other words, you know, Ronnie and Roy would come in and they had to use another guitar player named Adam Sherry, who played guitar. I hope that's how you pronounce your name, Adam. Sorry. Who came in and played the guitar, and Kim acted as producer, and they said that she could communicate. You know, ALS, they have those, you know, those computers, and you work with your eyeballs and you can somehow read things, and I don't claim to understand how it works, but I just read an interview with Ronnie where he talked about how they could communicate and stuff, and so that was what they were doing. And they crafted this album, 18 songs from that. Now, that's the story of how it was created. How is it, you know? When I first listened to it, I was sort of like, you know, I was all choked up and sentimental and stuff because it's the final Muffs album, but I was sort of like, I don't know, maybe, you know, maybe these are just leftover tunes, and I'm just going to like it for sentimental value. Ultimately, I take that back. I've now listened to the album about 6 or 7 times, and it is really good. I mean, it's a kind of another side of Kim. I mean, a lot of these are sort of happy, lovey songs or whatever, which you sometimes got with her, but she always had that sarcasm and just a real way of just digging it to, you know, sticking it to you if she wanted to. There's not that much of that, but it's really is good. It's a classic record. Any fan of the Muffs, if it's their 7th album, so if you have the other 6 or any combination thereof, get it. It's not one of these things, oh, you know, I know the story, so I'm going to have to kind of do it out of sympathy. That was my initial idea. Not necessary. It's great. The new Muffs record is great.
Not ready for anything. Just give me time.
Okay, and then next I thought I'd talk about the new Pixies record, Beneath the Eyrie, which is, you know, I only have the CD here, but the packaging is still pretty cool even for the CD. The Pixies still do pretty elaborate packaging. I mean, here's their last couple records. They also do these extended fold-outs and everything. So Beneath the Eyrie is the 3rd Pixies record since their comeback, since they started re-recording music in about 2012 or so. And I'm ultimately very open-minded, as you know, to classic artists coming back and making new music. I've discussed this before. You get one freebie, which is you get to go around, do your tour, your nostalgia fest. Look at us, remember us from 15, 20 years ago. You get to do that one time, and then if you come back a second time, you have to start bringing some new material. Well, the Pixies kind of pushed that rule quite a bit and did it 5, 6, 7 times before ultimately it got to the point where they wanted to make new music. Happened to be sort of the breaking point with Kim Deal, the bass player.
A river bend that's deep and slow, where every creature drinks their fill and other creatures take their...
So Kim is sort of on their first comeback album, Indie Cindy, from 2014, and but it's unclear. There's no, even in the credits of the album, it doesn't even say who's in the band, so you can hear her voice a little bit, but it sort of was decided that she wasn't really that much of a member of the band. Now, Indie Cindy is a decent record. I feel like in most instances it felt like they were trying too hard to sound like the Pixies, and obviously if anyone should sound like the Pixies, it should be the Pixies, but it did sort of feel like Frank Black, Charles Thompson, Black Francis, whatever you want to call him, was just sort of like, okay, let me get into Pixies mode and do that. And it didn't seem as natural as when the Pixies were the Pixies back in the day. When Kim Deal quit, they replaced her with Kim Shattuck, as you know from the Muffs. We just discussed them a second ago. She didn't last very long. They brought in another person named Paz Linchanton, I believe is how you pronounce her name, and she's been in the band ever since. The first album that version of the band made is called Head Carrier. Came out a few years ago. And this one is sort of like the album, I don't even remember it, you know? Like, I remember Classic Masher, that was the single, and I know I played it on my show, but a lot of this album is just sort of blended into the ether, and I really don't have much recollection of it at all. I mean, I know I've heard it a bunch of times, I just can't tell you anything about it. It's just pretty kind of unremarkable record. Well, now here we are back for the second time with that 4-piece lineup with the 3 original guys and Paz on bass, and the same producer that did the last record is now the producer of this new record, and it's a guy named Tom Dalgetty, as I'm reading it from the thing. No idea what his credits are, don't know. Other than working with the Pixies a second time, so obviously they liked it. In this instance, I have to say I think the songs are better. They are just sometimes just doing the Pixies sound, and like I said, it should be up to Frank Black to be able to do that sound, to be able to turn it on, but you'd like to think that rather than doing a song that sounds Pixies-esque or like the Pixies, do they have the ability to do a song that's as good as their previous stuff? And in this album, I have to say the song called Graveyard Hill pretty much does. Okay, that song is fucking fantastic.
And when the moon grows smaller, Donna picks out a flower, gives her a witchy power.
It's not just a song that sounds like the Pixies, it feels like the Pixies, okay? Like the classic era, like effortless, like this is what we sound like, etc. A couple other songs on here approach that, but not quite. There's a wide variety of tunes, but ultimately it does have sort of a mellower feel to me. which I guess is what was going on with Head Carrier. Like I said, I don't really remember. I would liken this album to Bossa Nova, which of the original run Pixies, that album is my least favorite of the original run, but I still love the album because it's got some awesome songs on it. And least favorite of a band that didn't make a bad record in that original run, is something to be said. I mean, it still makes it great anyways. I would liken it to Bossa Nova in the general feel of it, just kind of sort of meanders a little bit with an occasional head above the water of whatever they're doing and just making a rocker and then kind of coming back. But Graveyard Hill is as good as anything the Pixies have done. I think the record is worthy of picking up. To me, it's better than the last two Pixies records. Okay, and then last is the new one from the new Pornographers. It's called In the Morse Code of Brake Lights. And let me show you the packaging here. This is a promo version I got for the radio. Of course, I would buy any new Pornographers album that comes out, no matter what, don't care. I love AC Newman. He's the current power pop king. Say what you want, have whatever opinion you want. You're wrong if you say that AC Newman isn't the current king. I'm not saying of all time, I'm saying of active people writing power pop music. There is no one better than AC Newman.
Every turn is timed and torn up. It's a language of quick goodbyes.
I've only listened to this one twice, so I can't say how it ranks, particularly with some of the classics, but I did really like the song You'll Need a New Backseat Driver, which is the opening track of the record. It's got Nico Case doing vocals on it. She's really good on her handful of songs. But again, everyone contributes except Dan Behar. He's not listed as a member of the band, so I guess he's out. I didn't realize that he was out of the band, but he does get a co-writing credit on this record. So go figure on that one. All right, friends, I'll be back shortly, I hope, fingers crossed, with this Replacements video, but this had to tide you over until then. All right, everybody, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.